You are not welcome in the ballroom. Stay in the kitchen or we pull the funding. That was the text my father sent me 1 minute before his grand entrance. I looked down at the scratchy maid's uniform he forced me to wear so I would not embarrass the family. I did not cry. I just looked at the security camera and smiled. I pressed my earpiece. Execute Protocol 9. Instantly, the magnetic locks on the ballroom doors slammed shut. The lights cut out. The trap was set. Before I tell you exactly what happened when the lights went out, and how my father realized he had just signed his own arrest warrant, drop a comment and let me know where you are listening from and what time it is for you right now. I want to see how far this story travels. The darkness in the hallway was not an accident. It was a feature. When I designed the obsidian, I programmed the emergency protocols myself. I knew exactly which circuits would cut and which doors would lock. My family thought I was trapped in the service pantry, invisible and powerless. They did not realize that in this building I was God. My name is Madison Grant. I am 30 years old and I am the owner and lead architect of this hotel. But tonight, to the 300 guests inside that ballroom, I was nobody. I was staff. I was the help. The lie had started 6 months ago. My sister, Jasmine, had gotten engaged to Matthew Sterling, the son of a billionaire tech investor. It was not enough for Jasmine to marry rich. She wanted to be rich. She wanted to be impressive. So, my father Drake spun a story. He told the Sterlings that Jasmine was not just a pretty face. She was a visionary. He told them she had designed the obsidian. He told them she was the silent genius behind Manhattan's most exclusive boutique hotel. It worked. Mr. Sterling was so impressed by his future daughter-in-law's portfolio that he wrote Drake a check for $250,000. Seed money, he called it. He thought he was investing in Jasmine's next project. In reality, he was funding Drake's gambling debts and a wedding they could not afford. To make the con work, I had to disappear. They could not have the real architect walking around answering questions. So they gave me a choice: sign a non-disclosure agreement and play the role of head of housekeeping for the night, or they would destroy my reputation. Drake threatened to sue me for a loan he had co-signed years ago, claiming I had defrauded him. It was a bluff, but a messy one. I signed the NDA. But I also made Drake sign my contract. Earlier that afternoon, my mother Dora had come into the staff locker room to inspect me. She had not hugged me. She had not thanked me for letting them use my venue. She had picked up a lint roller and aggressively ran it over the shoulders of my cheap polyester uniform. "There," she had said, her voice dripping with a poisonous kind of sweetness. "You finally look like you belong, Madison. Do not speak to Mr. Sterling tonight. Do not look at Matthew. You are the help. Do not ruin your sister's big win with your jealousy." I had looked at her and for a second I felt the old sting, the ache of being the daughter who was never enough. But then I looked at Jasmine, preening in the mirror, practicing the speech she would give about her design philosophy. That is when I realized something. Jasmine did not just want my hotel. She wanted my brain. Narcissists do not just steal objects, they steal traits. Putting me in a uniform was not just about service. It was about visual castration. She needed to strip me of my identity so she could wear it like a costume. She wanted to consume me. Dora thought she was putting me in my place. She did not understand that by forcing me into the shadows, she had given me the perfect vantage point. I was not jealous. I was patient. And as I stood in the dark pantry, listening to the confusion rising on the other side of the door, I knew my patience had just run out. The muffled chatter outside turned into a low rumble of confusion. Then the pounding started. Polite knocks at first, then angry fists against the mahogany. I checked my watch. Protocol 9 had been active for exactly 2 minutes. Right on schedule. The service door to the pantry flew open so hard it cracked against the wall. Drake stormed in, his face a mask of purple rage, with Dora right on his heels clutching her pearls like they were life preservers. They did not look at me like a daughter. They looked at me like a broken appliance that needed to be kicked. "What did you do?" Drake did not ask, he spat the words. He crossed the small room in 2 strides and grabbed my upper arm, his fingers digging into the muscle through the cheap fabric of my uniform. "The doors will not open. The lights are out. Mr. Sterling is standing there in the dark. Fix it." I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up at his eyes. "I cannot simply fix it, sir. The system has initiated a lockdown." "I do not care what the system initiated," he shouted, shaking me. You are the head of housekeeping. You are supposed to handle the logistics. Go out there and pry them open if you have to. Dora pushed past him, her voice a frantic hiss. Do you have any idea how this looks? Jasmine is crying in the limousine. Matthew's father is asking if we paid the electric bill. You are humiliating us, Madison. On purpose. I am just the help, remember? I said, keeping my voice flat. I do not have the authority to override a security lockdown. Then find someone who does. Drake roared. He leaned in close, the smell of expensive scotch and desperation on his breath. Listen to me, you ungrateful little brat. If those doors do not open in 60 seconds, I will make sure you never work in this city again. I will call every hotel manager in Manhattan and tell them you are a thief. I will tell them you are unstable. I will bury you so deep you will be lucky to scrub toilets in Jersey. It was a fascinating display of power dynamics. Here was a man who had forged my signature, stolen my intellectual property, and erased my existence, threatening to destroy a career I did not even have. He truly believed the lie. He believed I was just a mid-level employee he could crush with a phone call. He did not realize he was standing in the belly of a beast I had built bone by bone. You would destroy my reputation? I asked, testing the waters. I will ruin you, he promised, tightening his grip until it hurt. I made you and I can break you. Now open the damn doors. Dora nodded in agreement, her eyes cold. Do as your father says, Madison. Stop being dramatic. We are paying you to work, not to think. They were so sure of their leverage. They thought they held the keys to my survival because they still saw me as the desperate girl who needed their approval. They did not see the tablet in my hand or the biometric scanner on the wall behind me. They did not see the predator. They only saw the prey. I pulled my arm free from his grasp with a sharp jerk. The movement surprised him enough that he stumbled back a step. I straightened my apron, brushed the imaginary lint off my shoulder where he had touched me, and let the mask slip just a fraction. Actually, I said, my voice dropping an octave, losing the subservient tone of the maid and adopting the steel of the sea. I think we need to talk about the bill. The bill. Drake blinked, the red flush on his neck deepening. He laughed, a short barking sound that held zero humor. You stopped the wedding because you were worried about a bill? I told you I will handle the financials next week. Now open the doors. That is not how this works, I said, reaching behind a stack of napkins on the shelf and pulling out a slim high-end tablet. I tapped the screen, bringing up a document with a digital signature at the bottom. His signature. According to the venue rental agreement for the Obsidian, specifically Clause 14, subsection B, all outstanding balances must be settled in full prior to the commencement of the event. Failure to remit payment results in an immediate suspension of services. I turned the screen toward him. The number $85,000 glowed in red, indicating overdue. You paid the deposit, I continued, my tone clipped and professional, stripped of any familial warmth. But the catering, the security, the audiovisual package, and the venue fee are outstanding. The total is $85,000. The system is automated, Drake. It will not unlock the doors until the balance reads zero. Dora gasped, her hand flying to her chest. You're doing this now? With Matthew's parents standing 10 feet away? This is blackmail, Madison. It is a contract, I corrected. You signed it. You agreed to the terms. You just did not think you would have to follow them because you thought you owned the help. Drake narrowed his eyes, stepping closer again, trying to use his physical size to intimidate me. It was a tactic that had worked when I was 12. It did not work on a woman who negotiated with unions and city inspectors for a living. I do not have time for your little power trip. I will write you a check on Monday. We are family. You know I am good for it. I know you are not good for it, I said. I know your construction firm has been in the red for 18 months. I know you have 3 maxed-out credit cards and a lien on the house in Connecticut. And I know the only reason you are throwing this wedding is to convince Mr. Sterling to write you another check. His face went slack. The bully vanished, replaced by a frightened man who realized his victim had been taking notes. So no, I said. No checks. No Monday. The payment terminal is right here. I tapped the card reader attached to the tablet. Credit or debit. Immediate transfer. We do not have that kind of limit on our personal cards, Dora hissed, looking frantically at the closed door. You know that. Then I guess Jasmine isn't getting married here. I moved to put the tablet away. Wait. Drake lunged, blocking me. He looked toward the service door's small window. Through the reinforced glass we could see the hallway. The guests were getting restless. Mr. Sterling, a man whose time was worth $1,000 a minute, was checking his watch. He looked annoyed. He is watching Drake, I whispered, leaning in. Mr. Sterling is wondering why a man who claims to be a successful developer cannot even get the doors open. How long before he starts asking questions? How long before he asks to see your portfolio? Drake looked at me, and for the first time I saw genuine fear. He was not looking at his daughter anymore. He was looking at a creditor. You are enjoying this, he snarled. I am executing a transaction, I said, cold as ice. Client 409, you are in breach. Pay the bill or the doors stay locked. Decide. Drake's eyes darted to the small window again. Mr. Sterling had moved closer to the glass, peering into the dim service corridor with a frown that could curdle milk. The billionaire investor was not just impatient, he was suspicious. And suspicion was the one thing a con man like my father could not afford. I do not have the corporate card on me, Drake lied, sweat beading on his forehead despite the air conditioning. It is in the car. No, it is not, I said softly. It is in your left jacket pocket. I saw you checking it when you walked in. You always pat your pocket when you are nervous. He froze. $85,000, Drake, I whispered, leaning in so only he could hear. Think about the math. If you pay me, you lose some cash you were not supposed to spend. But if you do not pay me, the doors stay locked. Mr. Sterling asks why. He finds out you cannot cover the venue fee. He starts wondering what happened to that $250,000 seed round he wired you last week. And then he pulls the funding. The wedding is cancelled, your company is exposed, and you go to prison for fraud. Is that worth saving $85,000? It was the sunk cost fallacy weaponized. He had already invested too much in the lie to turn back now. He looked at me with pure, unadulterated hatred, the kind of look you give someone who has seen you naked and knows you are ugly. You are evil, he hissed. I am accounting, I replied. Swipe the card. His hand went to his pocket. He pulled out a sleek, matte black card. I recognized the logo immediately. It was issued to Nexus Ventures, the shell company he had set up to launder Mr. Sterling's investment. He was about to pay for a wedding with money legally designated for software development. He swiped the card through the reader on my tablet with a violent, slashing motion, as if he were trying to cut me with it. There, he spat, his face inches from mine. You got your money, you greedy little rat. Are you happy? You just stole my operating capital. He did not get it. And that is the thing about narcissists, they have a fatal blind spot. They believe they are the main character in every story, the exception to every rule. Drake did not see a transaction log or a digital paper trail. He just saw an obstacle. He thought that by paying the money he had won. He thought he had silenced me. He did not realize that in the digital world, money talks louder than threats. I looked down at the tablet. The screen flashed, authorizing. While the little wheel spun, I tapped a small, inconspicuous checkbox at the bottom of the merchant interface. Send digital receipt to board of directors. It was a feature I had installed for corporate clients who needed instant expense reporting. But Drake, in his arrogance, had listed Mr. Sterling as a silent board member on the shell company's registration to make it look legitimate. He thought it was just a title on a PDF. He did not realize that my system automatically scraped the corporate registry for email contacts attached to the EIN. The screen turned green. Approved. The receipt did not just go to Drake. It went to the cloud. It went to the IRS logs. And, at the speed of light, it went to the inbox of the man standing 10 feet away. Transaction complete, I said, my voice void of triumph. Pleasure doing business with you. Drake snatched his card back. Open the doors. And if you say one word to Sterling, I will kill you. I do not need to say a word, I said, putting the tablet away. The doors are unlocking now. He smoothed his suit jacket, fixed his tie, and transformed instantly from a cornered animal back into the jovial father of the bride. He pushed open the service door and strode into the hallway, arms wide, greeting the guests with a booming laugh. Apologies, everyone. Just a minor technical glitch with the lighting system. All sorted out. Shall we? The guests cheered. Dora shot me one last withered glare before following him. They thought they had survived. They thought the crisis was over. I waited in the shadows of the pantry for a count of 10. Then I walked over to the main control panel on the wall. They had paid for the room. Now they were going to get the show. The ballroom doors glided open and the guests flooded in, relieved and chatty, completely unaware they were walking into a crime scene. I stayed in the service shadows watching the performance begin. Jasmine did not just enter the room, she invaded it. She swept onto the stage in her custom gown, grabbing the microphone with the practiced ease of someone who had rehearsed this moment in front of a mirror for months. Behind her, the massive 30-foot LED wall flickered to life. It displayed a slideshow of her sketches, crude, crayon-level drawings she had likely paid a freelancer on Fiverr to mock up last week. "Welcome to the Obsidian," Jasmine announced, her voice trembling with faux humility. She looked out at the sea of faces, locking eyes with Matthew's parents in the front row. "When I designed this space, I wanted to create something that felt like home. Every archway, every light fixture, it all came from my heart. I poured my soul into these walls." Dora wiped tears from the front row. Drake puffed with pride. Matthew gazed at Jasmine, convinced he was marrying a genius. It was flawless identity theft. She was erasing me from my own work in real time. I stood by the kitchen doors beside a beige panel labeled maintenance only. Inside was a biometric override scanner I had installed years ago, hardwired to bypass every system in the building. On stage, Jasmine gestured at the ceiling beams and claimed they were her vision. I pressed my palm to the glass. Blue light pulsed. Biometric match confirmed. "Welcome, Architect Grant. Access level, owner." I triggered the command. Music died. Lights snapped white. Gasp swept the room. Behind Jasmine, her fake slides vanished, replaced by stamped blueprints bearing my name. The property deed. Drake's email dismissing the project. She spun around, speechless. The house lights cut. A spotlight hit the back wall. Me. Still in a maid's uniform. "That," I said into the activated PA, "is the difference between a vision and a lie." 300 guests turned. Drake didn't look at the evidence, he looked at me furious. "You hacked it," he screamed, charging. Before he reached me, a hand clamped his wrist. "Mr. Sterling." The billionaire twisted Drake back effortlessly. "That's enough." Sterling raised his phone. "My finance team just flagged an $85,000 charge to this hotel, paid by Nexus Ventures. The startup I funded." Drake went pale. "That isn't a glitch," Sterling said. "It's embezzlement." Security moved in. "I've contacted the district attorney. Police are en route." Drake collapsed. Officers arrived minutes later and cuffed him without resistance. Dora screamed at me. Jasmine sobbed. Matthew stared at the deed on screen, then removed the watch she'd bought him and dropped it on the table. "My lawyers will contact you about the ring," he said. "Don't leave town." He walked out. I didn't follow. I went upstairs to my office, poured water and watched the street empty. There's a principle called clean hands. You don't throw punches. You create a room where the truth speaks for itself. I hadn't called police. I'd only sent a bill. They paid with stolen money. I opened my phone. Delete. Delete. Jasmine. Delete. Then the building app. Biometric database purge. Access revoked. The silence was perfect. I didn't lose a family. I lost a liability.